Hi everyone, I'm Enrique and I'm here again with a video to help you set up your week. As you know, that we are in the second week of our course and you already know the what you have to do. Uh, as we have been discussing, the first thing that you got to do is open the contents of your D2L, the syllabus and content section, and check the material that we have for the second week. In the second week, as I'm showing you here, this is all about the writing process. You have to read from Andrew Landford's Everyone's an Author, the first part, writing processes on pages 75 through 103. And we are going to continue reading the material that is from the language corner, which is about sentences, sentence patterns, and also choice of words and exercises on the topic. As I told you before, this information appears on pages 675 through 686 in your book, emphasizing ideas and opening and closing sentences. So you need to check the language corner. Once you do this, you have to do the exercises that are in the self-assessment, those exercises that you do online and that are self-graded and that you get the feedback upon completion. So after you do this, I just want to remind you that in this week we have the first exercises in the quizzes section. You have two exercises and one partial test. The first exercise is about parallelism in the sentence, which is studied in the language corner again, and the third exercise is on the thesis statement, which is a practice exercise. For both exercises, quiz 1 and 3, you have multiple attempts. Then on Friday, you have the first partial test, which is about writing a thesis statement. Where do you find information for the thesis statement? You need to go to the learning object of the week. But before I show you in the learning object where you could get this information, I'm going to remind you that the self-assessments are the self-evaluated exercises in the Otros tab in your program, and they have been organized by weeks. After you study the contents, you go and evaluate what you have done. The only peculiar thing about the self-assessment this second time is that in addition to the ones that you have to complete online, self-assessment 1, 2, and 3, you have to write the first qualitative self-assessment. This is the one that's going to be evaluated. As I explained during the video conference on Saturday, in the qualitative self-assessment, you evaluate your progress in my course. Not only the contents that you have studied, but also you think about the time that you took the self-assessments online, and then you tell me about the results. I'm going to give you a resource in your news wall together with this video. I'm going to attach this document that you will see over here that I discussed with you in the video conference. In this document, I'm explaining step by step the difference between self-assessments online and the ones that are the qualitative self-assessment. This is a very long document. Actually, not very long, it's a couple of pages only, but I explained clearly the difference between the two exercises. But now that since you're going to have this resource, I don't need to waste time explaining what this is. You can read it yourself, and in case you're in doubt, you can contact me again via email and be more than happy to help you. But everything is explained here, so the document is self-explanatory. I'm going to use this time to get to the learning object of the second week because I want to show you what important information you'll find once you access. So in the learning object, you'll see that you have this is the second week. As I said, we are in the second week, and the learning object, and I'm going to refresh the concept. The learning object is the interactive object that appears on every week in your contents, where I explain the contents of your book. The learning object is over here, and in the second week is about the writing process. This learning object is introduced by Professor Mark Pudvin from the university in the introductory section on page 1. And this is a very interesting video because he gives testimony of his experience as a teacher for so many years. So the video is very interesting, and once you have watched the video, you continue with the general introduction to the writing as a process, and this is what I wrote for you. You should read this thoroughly. I'll give you a very good example written by Rosa Baker, one journalist from the New Yorker, and in this case it's from the Sunday Observer, and this is about writing as a process. This is a fun article or essay, and I'm going to get back to this essay in week 5 when I introduce the analytical essay. I use this essay as an example. But once you read the essay by Baker, which is one of my favorite authors, you continue reading information about writing as a process. I present the process the way I see it, from generating ideas through brainstorming, questioning, listening, clustering, up to the moment in which you start organizing your ideas. If you recall correctly, in week 1, we saw that one of the early stages in the writing process is to do critical reading, which is text annotation. I'm going to consider that you already did this, and then you're already in the writing process. On page 3, I established the difference between in the stage of generating ideas, in the pre-writing stage, the difference between generating ideas when you do brainstorming or clustering, listing, and then I make the distinction from organizing ideas. Is when you already have generated ideas and then you want to put them into an outline form, or maybe into a chart form, or something that resembles the essay somehow. So it's important you read all these techniques, because you need to provide evidence of your pre-writing in your portfolio in week 8, and then you have to show 2 pre-writing techniques. So you need to use them for real and show the evidence at the end when you present your portfolio. So please read carefully. I also included here a chapter by John Langan, a chapter about the writing process, and in which he provides very clear definition of all the techniques. I like John Langan because he's very methodic, and is an interesting way to organize information. So after you have done all this, you continue with the learning object, and then you get to the part in which you are composing the text, the essay as such. And here you have a very interesting video with an introduction to it's an interesting video about introductions, the different type of introductions, and I keep on using John Langan's divisions. And after you have studied the different type of introductions, that I separate them here. This is partial test number 2, beginning with a broad statement, beginning with an idea that will be the opposite of what you will develop in your thesis, an explanation, an incident or brief story, beginning with questions, with a quote, all these many possibilities. So I give you a very interesting example, and I divide the example into the different parts of the introduction. Introduction that uses the Fennell approach from general to specific. A hook in which you introduce the topic in a general way, in which you grab the attention of the reader, and then you walk slowly towards the thesis. you go through a transitional sentence in the middle, and then at the end you have the thesis statement. So that's the typical pattern of the introduction. So I'll give you here examples of introduction, again from John Langan's book. I give you one example of each of the type of introductions. Then once you're done with this, you continue with the writing process, and then you get to the stage of proofreading and revision. Is after you have written the essay and after you're kind of happy with what you have, then you go back and then do the proofreading and the revision and the edition of the essay, which means you keep on changing. So the process is one from getting ideas at the beginning and then having something for real while writing the essay, and then at the end changing in the revision moment. Something interesting here too is that I introduced the I give you the guide to the thesis statement. I provide the definition of what the thesis is, the pattern of the thesis statement, that you have a limited subject, a claim, and a blueprint. I give you examples of different thesis statements and where the thesis statement should be located, the contents of the thesis. So this is what you have to study for the first partial test on Friday. So this is mostly what you have in your week. I wish you good luck in your study this week, and please get back to me in case you need my help.